BDM YouTube channel, and this is our first episode on infection prevention. I am Coach Angela, owner of BGM, Science of Beauty and Business, and I'm also a licensed nail technician.
And I'm Coach Dawn. I'm the Director of Programs at BGM Science of Beauty and Business, and I'm also a licensed manicurist.
Coach Dawn had come to me and she said, we need to teach infection prevention first. And I said, why?
We need to teach infection prevention first because that's the most important part of the job that we do. They need to learn about infection prevention before they ever touch a person, before a person ever sits down in front of them. They need to know how to clean their table and their tools.
And now we're going to teach it to you. We're going to go over the key terms that we will be discussing and overviewing a little bit during this episode. The first one is hygiene.
The second one is infection.
Third one is sterilization.
Fourth is disinfection.
Sanitation.
6 is cross-contamination.
7th is personal protective equipment, otherwise known as PPE.
8 is autoclave.
9 is antiseptic.
10 is pathogen.
11 is hand hygiene.
12 is bactericide.
13 is fungicide.
14 is client consultation.
15, antiseptic technique.
16, regulations and compliance.
17, incubation period.
And 18, infectious disease.
Alright, so Coach Dawn, can you explain the difference between infection prevention and infection control?
The difference between infection prevention and infection control is when you're talking about infection prevention, you're talking about making sure that something is not happening. So the infection is not happening, you're preventing it from taking place. When we talk about infection control, it already has taken place, and so now we're trying to make sure we control the outbreak so it doesn't just continue to spread.
Now, why is it important to you all as beauty professionals, especially nail technicians, but why is it important to nail technicians?
One of the number one things is going to be the health and safety of our clients.
For sure.
When they're coming in the salon, the most important thing is making sure that they come in the way they came in, that they're leaving the same way, and so they're not taking infections and just like nail disorders and stuff away with them from our places of establishment.
Is infection prevention also starts with you as a beauty professional, because you want to make sure that you aren't sick. And I know that we don't want to miss out on any money, but just imagine, like, what could happen if you're sick and you pass it on to someone?
If I'm sick and I pass it to somebody, it's just going to keep going, especially if I pass it to one person and I'm at work, I'm going to pass it to more people because I'm around so many people. I am the center of the focus at the salon because I'm the one providing the services.
Yeah. Now we want to go ahead and think about cross-contamination, because I know that is part of our stay board and pretty much everybody's stay board, but I kind of think that they get confused with cross-contamination, especially like table setup. But just explain a little bit about why cross-contamination is definitely a key factor when we are doing infection prevention.
Cross-contamination, when you are reaching over yourself. You're reaching over yourself, you're reaching over your client, and the biggest thing is, it's like taking one thing, like let's say you have something that's super greasy and it's dripping grease. And instead of just taking it and putting it in the trash, you're reaching over here and it's dripping grease and you're taking it all the way across your surface and putting it in the trash. It's the same thing with cross-contamination. We're just, if something is already contaminated, you've used it, you want it to go from the point you're using it, straight through that client, and then straight to the trash or straight to the end of the table. And then once you're done, you're able to take all of that and just put it in the trash and not take it across the table or across the client and expose them. And then also, the reason why we protect our surface when we're working is the same thing. When your client is sitting here, you're doing natural nails. Nails carry things,
yes,
nasty things,
yes,
and so you need to protect your surfaces. That's the number one way that I see where people are cross-contaminating, is that they are not protecting their surfaces when they're working.
That is true, and that's why we teach table setup here with all of our services, and that will be part of our demo that we'll do in the next lesson, so you can see table setup. And I know one thing, the big thing that we also teach is making sure that if you're right-handed, everything's on the right side. So like, just like you said, you don't want to reach over, say you're doing acrylics and you don't want the monomer over here and then you got to come put the powder over here and then back and forth. I think it just kind of looks organized. Like, you just really want to be organized. And people don't have to know that it's you are preventing cross-contamination. You just look like the professional that you are.
Yeah.
Right? All right. And then what we also want to think about, we have our legal and regulatory compliances. In the state of Texas, we have our TDLR handbook, and all states have their own regulatory compliances. The unfortunate part is everybody's different. But talk a little bit and let them know, or let's just discuss a little bit more about our regulatory practices that we have in the state of Texas. What are some things that we could definitely tell our listeners?
Number one, the different types of situations they can find themselves in.
For sure.
One of the smallest types of consequences they can find is that they get a fine. And I think that's for the lower level type of situations where they may come out and say, okay, well, this is what we find that the rule that you've broken, and you get a fine for that. On a bigger scale, you can end up losing your license to practice, and you can lose your salon, you can lose your business. For a lot of people, this business has changed their lives. This is their bread and butter. So the best thing to do is to follow up and know the legal and regulatory compliances for your state, wherever you're getting licensed. And then also a big thing is if you get licensed in one state and you have to transfer that license over, you need to know the regulatory rules for the state you're transferring your license to.
And you can find your regulatory definitely online by looking at your State Board of Cosmetology. So if you're in Texas, it's Texas State Board of Cosmetology. If you're in Missouri, it's Missouri State Board of Cosmetology. So it's pretty easy to find. There's no excuses as to why you should not be able to locate this information. And even our scientists here, we practice that because the State Board test requires you know that information. I think it's roughly about 12% of it, which is enough to not pass if you don't get all that information in correctly. Speaking of state law, State Board, knowing the levels of decontamination, we have hand sanitizer on the table. Is that effective?
To a certain extent.
Like how?
For your hands.
For your hands. So can I use the hand sanitizer to clean my table?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. You cannot use hand sanitizer to clean your table. So let's talk a little bit about our levels of decontamination. We have cleaning, sterilization, disinfectant. But before that, explain to them a little bit of the difference between cleaning and sanitizing. Because I think that we tell people to come in and we think hand sanitizer might be enough for them when they walk in here. But like, no, go wash your hands.
Yeah,
so
go wash your hands.
Talk to the people.
Cleaning is removing the physical dirt and debris. And when you're sanitizing, you're only reducing germs to a safe level. So if you're sanitizing with debris on your hands, you're essentially just rubbing everything around and giving it a new home. And then it's just going to kind of settle right back into the skin on that surface level. But it can't effectively do its job if the surface has not already been cleaned and the dirt and debris moved away.
So you hear that, no hand sanitizer on your table thinking that it's clean or...
And people use alcohol too.
Oh, but can we use alcohol?
No.
I ain't gonna lie, I used to use when I was young ago. I used to like spread alcohol on it. Yeah, but no.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that I know the real way to clean, like what are some of the practical things you've taught the scientists that they need to do when we're definitely talking about their levels of decontamination?
Have a schedule of cleaning. Like knowing in order that you're going to clean everything up, and if you're all over the place, you're going to forget trash. You'll take trash from here to there and forget to put it in the trash can. You'll have tools from here to your wash station. It's really important to have a system when you're doing your disinfection practice.
So saying like what is like a system that you could think of for them to do for sure?
My suggestion would be a top-down system.
Okay.
Because if you're working from the top down, you're going to make sure all of your products are closed first. And then you're going to start gathering your trash, throwing all of your trash away, gather the towels and everything, put those where they need to be washed. Your tools, take those to the sink, wash those, put them where they need to be, and then you're ready to wipe everything down. When you're starting from the top, you wipe everything down. Whatever falls, it falls. Then you sweep, then you mop, and then you're done.
Did y'all hear that? Like, that's absolutely amazing, the top-down method. I don't think I've ever done that, but... real quick, we're going to throw this in there. For those of you that travel, because I was a traveling manicurist, and maybe I did the top-down, but I would, for me, when I would travel, I would have my trash, like a plastic Ziploc bag with me, and all my trash would go in there. Any of my, like, even my multi-use or my single-use stuff, everything went into... Sort of like how we teach them to do, say, what, just throw it all away? So I would throw it all in the trash in my bag so it wouldn't cross-contaminate everything, and then I would put that into whatever bag I was carrying. I also had like a little handheld vacuum that I would clean up. Yes.
Oh, that's good.
And honestly, I would go and wash my hands before I left. So I would say, can I use your restroom? And I'd make sure my hands was clean, because when I was getting ready to go to my next client, I want to make sure that my hands was clean. And then if I just need to use hand sanitizer, or I would ask to use their bathroom before I went in their room as well. So that, I love your top-down method. So hopefully you all caught that. If not, just rewind it, because that is genius. You want to go from the top down, because I know when you're starting out, especially beginner nail techs, beginner beauty professionals, you need a system. Systems are really, really key.